Hi guys, this is Josiah with NextTech Consultants. What I want to talk to you about today is something called Zoombombing. Power? What? Boys, powering? Come on. I thought I locked the door. Let's go. I'm trying to record. Oh man, that's my kids are so funny. Oh, I love them. But where was I? So what I want to talk to you about today is something called Zoom bombing. What that is when somebody, like my kids, come and join your meeting and when they're not supposed to. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with that. And I have 10 tricks to prevent Zoom bombing for you. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I do want to mention I do stream on Mixer every Sunday and Thursday night. So if you do have any other tech related questions or questions pertaining to this video, you can find a link in that to the description below. So the first thing we want to talk about is what is Zoom? So Zoom, if you haven't heard of it, is a video conferencing platform used to meet with your colleagues, friends, family, from your home computer, or you can even join with a phone call. You just call the Zoom number and put in your meeting ID and it'll get you connected to the conference call. So due to the current coronavirus pandemic and their push for telehealth and education, they have gained a large market share in the video conferencing space. Which brings us to our next topic. What is Zoom bombing? So Zoom bombing is when a person drops into your meeting uninvited and does something they shouldn't. This isn't a new practice. This has happened lots of times in other platforms, in chats and emails. Sometimes a reply all thread happens if you have ever experienced that. However, this has become such a big problem and gotten the name Zoom bombing because this isn't happening just in a chat platform or in work or something that could be funny. What's happening is people are getting into these education platforms where our kids are, and they're posting inappropriate language, they're posting inappropriate pornographic videos. So this is becoming a really big problem that needs to be addressed. How does Zoom bombing happen? This happens because there are ways to set up your meetings that are the wrong way. A lot of people are posting their meeting links online where they're publicly accessible. Once these links are accessible and the meetings are set to public, anyone, and I really do mean anyone, can join. This is a big problem because a hacker can use bots to scrape the internet for Zoom meetings. And even if you have a password, it can pick up that password if it's posted with it. Then it will join your Zoom meeting, and if it's successful, and it can just automatically run some videos or inappropriate languages for everyone to see or hear. So this brings us to our next point. Is this unique to Zoom? No, it's definitely not. This can be any meeting platform that has public links or even password protected links should you post that password with your meeting link. Other platforms this can happen on, just for example, we have Google Hangouts, Cisco WebEx, GoToMeeting, RingCentral. There's a lot of them out there right now, especially doing new marketing, trying to get people onto their platforms. It all just depends on how you set up your meeting. Zoom is really only getting the name because of their current popularity due to the coronavirus pandemic. Finally, let's talk about how to prevent Zoom bombing from happening to you. Just so you know, while this video does pertain to Zoom, it doesn't mean you can't use these tips and tricks for other web conferencing platforms like I mentioned before. These are really good general security practices you should be using. So we're gonna go ahead and hop over to the computer and we're gonna hit our top 10 tricks to prevent Zoom bombing from happening to you. Before we head to the computer to show you Zoom, what I would like to remind you is if you do like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more videos like this. All right, let's go head over to the computer and look at Zoom. Now that we're on our computer, we're gonna walk through Zoom setup. I'm gonna be doing it with the app on my computer, but a lot of these settings are the same in a web browser. So let's go ahead and open up the app and we're gonna do schedule a meeting. With these options is where our first tip starts. So tip number 1, never use this personal meeting ID. While it's convenient that it never changes, it also causes a lot of security risk by never changing. If you forget to put a password on for a meeting, or if your password doesn't change between meeting to meeting, this poses a risk because people can just join into your meeting and they can definitely Zoom bomb your meeting with that personal ID. So what I would recommend with tip number 1 is to generate your link automatically. This will give you a new ID for every single meeting, and somebody can't guess it as easily. Tip number 2, use a meeting password. When you use a meeting password, it forces people to know that password before they can join your meeting. It also prevents bots or other things from guessing your randomly generated 9-digit ID and just dropping into your meeting. So you should have a password no matter what on any of the meetings that you create. Tip number 3, go ahead and leave video off for all. This is just the default, so somebody could still turn on their video based off of these settings, but you definitely want to leave them off at first so you don't have any random videos popping up right when somebody joins. Then let's go ahead and do our advanced options down here. Tip number 4 would be try the waiting room. The waiting room basically puts a participant into a queue, so to say, or the waiting room, and you have to approve them before they're allowed to be in your meeting. And I'll show how to do that process in a little bit when we get into our meeting. But go ahead and enable the waiting room. Tip number 5 is do not enable join before host. The reason for that is because you want to join your meeting first so you can set a few more security parameters up before anyone else joins the meeting. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click schedule. On my computer, I'll pop up an email link. It's okay to go ahead and send this link in an email because that's a private way to send the link. But this tip number 6 is do not share this link publicly. If you're wanting people that you don't know to join this link and join this meeting, make them register in some way or sign up for something or get an email or request the link from you. If you share this link publicly, it allows people to try to break into your meeting and definitely degrades the security of your meeting overall. And I'm not going to go ahead and send this right now, so I'm going to go ahead and close this. And what you'll see here next over in your meetings is the meeting that we just created. If you ever forgot to enable a setting or you enabled a meeting before and you need to change some things, you can go ahead and click edit and all of those parameters come back up for you to be able to change. All right, now it is time to start your meeting. You're going to want to start your meeting, and there are a few things that you want to do before anyone else joins. Your tip number 7 is to go ahead and disable private chats. So if you click on the chat menu right here, you can toggle as the host the options. So participants can chat with no one, host only, everyone publicly, or everyone publicly and privately. Unless there's a good reason that somebody should be able to chat privately, especially in education purposes, you don't really want your students chatting back and forth about anything without you knowing. So I would definitely at least do everyone publicly, but I would also make sure you think about the situation you're in, because you might want host only or just no chats at all because you're going to be the one talking. Tip number 8 is to change the screen sharing to host only. So when you go here, you can click on screen sharing caret and it brings up advanced sharing options. So in the advanced sharing options, you don't really want your participants to be able to open up their screen and share anything on there. So you want to say only host. If there's a really good reason for this, think about it before and then change it at the time that you need it later in the meeting when somebody else should be sharing. Tip number 9 is to mute participants on entry. So you click on more under manage participants and you click mute participants on entry. This means once they join, they are muted automatically, but you can give them the option to unmute themselves. Think about this for your meeting, whether you want them to be able to do that or not, but you definitely want them to be muted when they join the meeting. So that way they don't interrupt right when they join or anything like that. So I'm going to allow them to unmute because people in my meeting, I want to have them be able to talk. So I'm going to click continue. All right, and so remember how we talked about the meeting room? What you see here is somebody has tried to join. So we can click see waiting room and you can see that, well, I've tried to join another computer. So NextTech has popped up. So you can go ahead and choose admit or remove. This is why the meeting room is so important. Nobody can come into the meeting room unless you allow them. So I'm gonna go ahead and admit so we can see the meeting here. And now that I clicked admit, the participant can then join with their computer audio or however they want to join. Tip number 10 is to lock your meeting. This is kind of like locking your front door. And when you're starting a meeting is you don't really want people coming in your house. This is very similar. So we're going to go ahead and click on more under participants and say lock meeting. No new attendees can join this meeting once locked, which that's a good thing. And we don't want anyone else to join now that I know no one else is going to be there. All right, guys, that was my 10 tricks to prevent Zoom bombing. What I would also say is I know some of these are overwhelming, especially if you're managing a large audience. So I think it'd be really important for you to have a co-host or somebody that could host it with you to let people in from the waiting room, make sure people are muted, and kind of watch what's happening in chat. But again, as always, thank you so much for joining me. If you did like the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. What on earth? Why is Landon the only one out here? Come on, guys. This is the one time you get to make noise in my video. You get to jump around. Are you ready, Clay? Hi guys, this is Josiah with NextTech Consultant. What? I didn't even say the right line yet. That was too soon. All right, shh, ready? Called Zoom bombing. So, you guys gotta come out sooner. Come on, when I say talk to you, right? That's so good. You wanna try it again? Yeah. All right, let's see if we can get a better one. All right, let's try one more time. I think we're getting a lot better. All right, here we go.